Much, Georgia, for starting us off in a good way. And I see we have 111 participants in this Zoom space. So, welcome to our International Student Orientation. We warmly congratulate you on your acceptance to SFU. And hey, if you're still waiting to hear about your admission status, we do hope you will hear some good news soon. We're so happy that you've chosen SFU as part of your academic journey, and we hope that your experience here goes in the way that you hope it and want it to be. So, my name is Zoreen, and I'm the lucky one who gets to moderate our session today. And next slide. I'd like to open up our time together to respectfully acknowledge that Simon Fraser University is located on the stolen, unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Katzie, Coquitlam, Kaikai, Kwantlen, Semiahmoo, and Tsawwassen nations. What I've just shared is a land acknowledgement. Some of you may be familiar with the concept, and perhaps for others it might be new. We acknowledge the land to honor the Indigenous peoples who have lived and worked on this land historically and also presently. We are also very interested to spread awareness of land rights being in a settler colonial society. Thank you. So we have a lot of time together, and we thought we would just share how we're going to organize things. So this outlines the agenda that we have for our session. For the first hour, you will notice that our team will answer some commonly asked questions around immigration requirements and also medical insurance. We'll take a quick, like 5-minute break, and then we'll jump into a 30-minute question and answer session. I think we've already done the reminder, but just to make sure that our videos and mics are turned off. And for those of you who are watching the recording, please note that the auto caption functionality may not be 100% accurate, but we'll do the best we can to articulate very clearly. So, presenters, we are 5 people on our team today. And here is a snapshot of our session presenters. We will all be around to welcome you in person and or virtually in the fall. So I'd like to share a little bit about who we are. Again, I'll begin with myself. My name is Zoreen, and I wanted to share that ethnically, my background comes from Gujarat in India. My parents were born and brought up in Kenya and Uganda in East Africa, and they came here as refugees to Canada, where I myself was born. My role here within the team is as the student transition educator for International Services for Students. Next on the screen is Georgia, who you've already been welcomed by. Georgia comes from both Canadian and British parents with some impeccable English skills, and so she is now trying to learn some Spanish. Georgia is one of our 6 immigration specialists who acts as an advisor for all international students, which is you. Karen, my other colleague, is also an immigration specialist who acts as an advisor for all of you, and she was born in Newfoundland, which is a province in eastern Canada. Karen completed her master's degree as an international student herself in Austria and Poland, and it was this amazing experience that led her to become an immigration specialist today. My dear colleague Ishani hails from Sri Lanka, and she's our Stellar International Student Experience Coordinator. And as a former international student herself at SFU, she's eager to welcome new international students to the community. She's got lots of tips to share. And lastly, we have our guest Hannah, who is our colleague from Graduate Studies and acts in the capacity of an academic support specialist. Hannah's roots are Haitian Canadian, as her father was born in Haiti and immigrated to Canada in the 70s. So, together, the 5 of us will take you on an informative journey. Heads up, there's a lot of information coming your way, but don't worry, if you miss anything, you can always review the slide deck and the recording after the session, as both will be posted on our website. Okay, I think we should get started. So, we have a bunch of questions that we are going to whip through. We've got 9 of them in particular. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm going to rewind that. International Services for Students, ISS. So that's the team that the four of us on the presenter screen are here to represent. Next slide. So as an international student on our campuses, Your transition into this new life experience as a student at SFU can be both exciting, but also a little bit challenging. So ISS is sort of like your best friend. We are here to support you. We are commonly known as ISS, and as a key resource, we have a bunch of different things going on. So the number one thing that you should remember is that we have a team of regulated Canadian immigration consultants. So people like Karen and Georgia, who are on this call, they are licensed to provide you with advice relating to study permit and visas, as well as your eligibility to work in Canada. Our team also advises on medical insurance and navigating the Canadian healthcare system. In addition, we offer transition support to new students who are coming in, with some more details on that to come. And then, hey, maybe you're interested to explore another international opportunity. So, our office at ISS also oversees the international exchanges and field school experiences, and we administer the programs around that. Lastly, International Services for Students offers dedicated support for our refugee and newcomer students. So, how can you contact us? We have multiple ways. We offer both in-person and virtual appointments at all three of SFU's campus, which are in Burnaby, Surrey, and Vancouver. You can also get in touch with us via email. And there's a little quick QR code that you could scan so you have that in your saved links. One last thing I'd like to share is that our website has a lot of resources. And I know that websites can be tricky because there's a lot of information there, but I would like to highlight that in that welcome guides section, there are 5 guides that are tailored for different international pathways depending on how you are coming to our university. And so what's cool about these guides is that they come with step-by-step checklist. Do this, then do this, and make sure you've done this. So if you just sort of follow that cheat sheet, hopefully your transition experience might be a little bit smoother and easier. Thank you. So I would like to highlight that we have a dedicated space on the Burnaby campus specifically for international students called the Global Student Center. And this is the place where you can hang out, you can have your lunch, you can grab a snack, you can chat with new friends, you can play a game. There's lots of different things that are happening. So the visuals in the background here maybe will entice you to come, whether you have classes at the Burnaby campus or not. We will be open on 3 days every week, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 11:30 to 3:30. This is a space where you can drop by. You can ask us any questions. And hey, we may not know the answer to many of them, but what we will do is help you to find them. We will point you in the right direction. And if it's not us, it's all the other friendly students who have already had some of the same experiences that you might. So please stop by the center. It's located in what we call the Academic Quadrangle or the AQ 2013. That's a good place to save. Next slide. And just to mark your calendars, here are some examples of the types of things that you can expect at this space. You will receive an email just because, there's a lot of things to remember, but every other week, so every 2 weeks starting in September, ISS issues a newsletter. That's the place where we summarize everything. So if you've got different things coming on the website, email, other newsletters that you might be part of, your faculty information sessions, all of that is great. And also, our ISS newsletter is specific to international students. Please read it. Read it. Yes. There's so many things that students miss when they don't read it. And then they're like, where? Oh, I didn't know. I wish I knew before. That's your space. That's your spot. Um, yeah. I think you can read everything, but hey, if you haven't already signed up for some of our welcome events and our social insurance clinics, those are the dates on the screen there. So please mark your calendars. I think I've done all the little like background stuff, and maybe we could get into the juicy details now of immigration requirements. I'm going to invite my colleague Karen, and we're going to get started with the immigration related portion of our session now. So the next set of slides and presentation will address 9 important questions. These questions and answers will help to set you up in a good way as an international student coming to SFU. So let's get started, okay, Karen?
Sure.
So, question number 1. What immigration documents do I need to study at SFU?
Okay, thank you, Zoreen. And before I begin answering this and the remaining questions, I just want to draw everyone's attention to the disclaimer at the top left corner of each of my slides. Canadian immigration policy continues to change rapidly and often without notice. So the information we share today is current as of today, which for those of you who are watching the recording is July the 11th to 2025. And I also want to preface my presentation by saying you do not have to remember everything that I say today. This is meant to be an overview of some important concepts and questions. But please remember that our team will be here for you throughout your studies. So you can connect with us when you have questions, when you need clarifications, or when you're not sure exactly where to turn. So I just wanted to start with that little bit. So moving on to the question that Zoreen asked, most international students require a study permit to study at SFU. And depending on your country of citizenship, you may also need a visa or an electronic travel authorization in order to travel to Canada. If we look at the travel documents section of this slide, you will see 2 documents or travel authorizations listed: temporary resident visas or TRV and the electronic travel authorization or ETA. The TRV is also sometimes referred to as a student visa, and this is a document that's required by visa required citizens to travel to Canada. The ETA, on the other hand, is an electronic travel authorization required for most TRV exempt foreign nationals, with some exceptions, and it would be linked to your passport if you had one. The TRV and the ETA do not give the holder immigration status in Canada. Instead, they are travel documents or travel authorizations. These would be automatically issued to you if you applied for your study permit from outside of Canada and your application has been approved. Your study permit, on the other hand, is your immigration status document. It gives you temporary immigration status in Canada as an international student, allows you to pursue your studies at SFU, and allows you to remain in Canada for a specific period of time. If you will be traveling to Canada for the very first time in the fall 2025 term, and your outside Canada study permit application has been approved, you will receive your permit upon entering Canada after an examination with a border services officer. So I hope that helps to answer that question.
Thank you, Karen. On to question number 2. I have a study permit from my previous Canadian school. The question is, do I need to apply for a new study permit?
Great question. So some of you may be coming to SFU from another Canadian Designated Learning Institution or DLI. And if so, as of November the 8th, 2024, Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, or IRCC, introduced a new process that study permit holders must follow in order to change from one DLI to another. Now, study permit holders must be enrolled at the DLI named on their study permit. So if you are currently in Canada with a study permit that was issued based on studies at another DLI, one other than SFU, you would need to apply for and be approved for an SFU study permit before you can begin your studies with us at SFU. And to apply for your SFU study permit, the application you will follow depends on where you're applying from. So if you're already in Canada and you have a valid study permit, and you're applying for your SFU study permit from here, you could follow the In Canada study permit extension process. However, if you are outside of Canada and you're applying for your SFU study permit, you would follow the instructions for making a new or initial study permit application, which is the outside Canada study permit application process. I hope that helps to answer that question.
Thank you, Karen. Question number 3. I'm applying for my SFU study permit. Do I need a provincial attestation letter or a PAL?
So as unless you are exempted, study permit applicants are required to include a provincial attestation letter or a PAL, or a territorial attestation letter, a TAL, in their study permit application. And here in BC, students requiring one would be issued the provincial attestation letter, or the PAL for short. The current list of PAL exemptions can be found on the IRCC website, and I've included a QR code to that page on this slide for your review. Under the current requirements, graduate students applying outside of Canada for a study permit do require a PAL. And if you're a study permit holder already in Canada and you're applying for your SFU study permit from here, you will also most likely require a PAL in your application. Students will often ask us, what steps do I need to follow in order to get my PAL? And it's a really good question, and it can be confusing because the PAL is still quite a new requirement. Our office does not issue the PALs at SFU. However, I've outlined the steps that students would need to complete before a PAL could be issued by the university on this slide. So I'll just go through them quickly. The first really important thing that you would need to do is to confirm your personal information with SFU in GoGrad. And importantly, for PAL issuing purposes, you need to make sure that your name in the GoGrad platform matches your name exactly as it appears on your passport so that the name can be accurately reflected on your PAL. The next step would be to accept your admission and pay your admission deposit. And then you would essentially wait for your PAL to be processed. An SFU representative will contact you usually within 5 to 7 business days regarding the PAL issuance. And then you would receive it and be able to include it in your application for a study permit. You can review the detailed instructions for how you will get the PAL on our frequently asked questions or FAQs webpage. And the QR code for that one is at the bottom right of the screen here. Thank you.
I love that the acronym is a PAL. Just feels so friendly. Moving along here, question number 4, Karen. Can my family come to Canada with me while I study?
Yeah, and this is another great question. I know how important family can be. While you are studying here at SFU, your family members may wish to join you here, for the duration of your studies. And as a point of clarification, when I mention family members, I am using the IRCC definition. So this includes your spouse, your common law partner, your dependent children, and their dependent children. So depending on what works best for you and your family unit, your dependent family members might decide to accompany you to Canada when you first travel here, or maybe they'll decide to join you in Canada at a later date. They may also want to remain in Canada with you for the whole duration of your studies or visit you periodically throughout your studies in Canada. When your family will come to Canada and the immigration documents they would apply for depends on what they wish to do here and for how long they intend to stay. Spouses and common law partners of some international students may be eligible to apply for an open work permit that would be exempt from the requirement for a labor market impact assessment, or LMIA. And to be eligible for this particular work permit, you, the student, must be a full-time student and study permit holder studying in a master's degree program of 16 months or more in duration, a doctoral degree program, or participating in one of the eligible programs or eligible professional degree programs as determined by IRCC. Generally, in this case, if your spouse or partner was to apply for this work permit, the work permit would be issued to expire with your study permit, depending on your spouse or partner's passport and biometrics validity. Spouses or common law partners of students pursuing graduate certificates and diplomas at SFU are currently not eligible for this type of work permit, but there may be other types of work permits that they can explore if that's something that they're interested in. Alternatively, your spouse or partner may choose to come to Canada as a visitor, and it's important to remember that visitors in Canada are permitted to stay here for up to 6 months unless otherwise specified by the officer at the port of entry. And then if your family member would like to stay in Canada longer as a visitor, they would need to apply to extend their status before it expires. Generally speaking, visitors in Canada cannot work or study while they are here. And finally, if your spouse or partner maybe has been accepted to study at a DLI, or they intend to study for a period of more than 6 months, perhaps they would want to explore a study permit and apply for a study permit to come to Canada to pursue their studies. Next slide, please. So if you have children that you would like to bring with you to Canada, if your children are school aged, so when I say that, I mean like primary and secondary level, generally between ages 5 and 18. If they will be coming with you to Canada and they intend to study, they must apply for a study permit before coming to Canada. And if your child will come with you to Canada and study, they would not require a letter of acceptance to apply for their study permit from outside of Canada, since they'd be coming with you as a study permit holder. Overall, it's really important to remember that both you and your family members must maintain valid immigration status at all times while you're here in Canada. And if there's ever questions about that, please, that's what we're here for, so you can reach out to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And just a reminder for everyone, again, there is a lot of information here. You do not have to remember it all. You will get a copy and a recording, and you can reference all of this good stuff later as well. So we have question 5 of 9. Karen, do study permit holders have to study full-time every term?
So to begin with this one, I always recommend that students visit our enrollment requirements website, and I've got the QR code on this page, just to review the full-time definition at SFU for graduate students, because the full-time definition across different DLIs can be very different. And I recommend familiarizing yourself with this definition as you prepare for your course planning now and also in your future terms. Your enrollment at SFU, so whether you're studying full-time or studying part-time, it affects your ability to work, study, and stay in Canada after completing your studies. We will talk a bit more about working in Canada during and after your studies in a little bit, but for now, we're just going to focus on your study permit and the conditions that you need to adhere to as a study permit holder. As a study permit holder, you are expected to actively pursue your studies in Canada and make reasonable progress towards completion of your program of study. From IRCC's perspective, this means that you must remain enrolled in each formal academic session or term during your studies in Canada. For SFU graduate students, the spring term, summer term, and fall terms are all considered formal academic sessions or formal academic terms. To be considered to be actively pursuing your studies as required by IRCC, You can be enrolled in a full-time or occasionally a part-time unit load from the perspective of your study permit. But with this being said, part-time study can impact your eligibility to work on and off campus while you study and possibly your future post-graduation work permit eligibility. Studying part-time can also have non-immigration related considerations attached. So we always recommend a holistic approach and that you consult with the applicable departments at SFU, like financial aid and awards, residence and housing, your academic department, and so on, to explore those considerations if ever you plan to drop down to part-time study or to take a leave from your studies. It is also important to note that all DLIs, including SFU, are obligated to report to IRCC on the enrollment status of their international students 2 times per year. So this will usually take place in the spring term, which takes place between January and April, and the fall term, which takes place between September and December. Thank you.
Thank you. So this question, number 6, is a big, important one that everybody probably asks. Can I work in Canada while I'm studying?
So while you're studying in Canada, you may be eligible to work on campus, off campus, and or in a SFU required internship or co-op term. And I'm going to go through the eligibility requirements for each in the next few minutes, but we'll start with on-campus work. If you meet certain requirements, which you can see here on this slide, you can work on campus without a work permit while you study at SFU. According to IRCC's definition, on campus can mean that you can work at buildings within the boundaries of the SFU campus. So an on-campus employer could be the university, it could be yourself if you're self-employed located at the school, a private business that provides on-campus services to the school, and so on. You can review the full definition of what would constitute on-campus work on the IRCC website. And to work on campus, it's really important that first of all, you have a valid study permit, and that study permit must include a condition printed on it stating that you may work or may accept employment if eligible. To this point, please be sure to check that these conditions appear on your study permit when you receive it. If they do not, you can contact one of us, International Student Advisor, Immigration Specialist, and we can help you with the process of updating your permit. It's also important to remember that you will need to be enrolled or studying full-time at SFU in the term or terms that you want to work on campus. You cannot begin working on or off campus under your study permit until your first term of study officially begins and you meet all IRCC requirements for the type of work you intend to pursue. So I just wanted to mention that too, just in case some of you may be coming to Canada a bit earlier than the term starts. Your eligibility to work would not begin until the term starts and you meet all the IRCC requirements. And to work in Canada, you will also require a valid social insurance number, and we call that a SIN or SIN number for any work that you do. This number is used for taxation purposes and is required for your employer to pay you, so it's very important. You will require a study permit containing the conditions for working on and off campus or a work permit in order to apply for a SIN, and you can apply for a SIN to Service Canada. And also earlier in the session, Zorine shared with us our upcoming social insurance number or SIN clinics that are taking place in September. So if it's your preference, you can also apply for your SIN by attending one of these clinics, and they're very efficient and a wonderful way to get your SIN number quickly. Next slide, please. So we'll move along to off-campus work. To work off campus without a work permit, in addition to being enrolled full-time and holding a valid study permit with the work conditions printed on it, You must also be enrolled in a program at SFU that is at least 6 months in length and leads to a degree, diploma, or certificate. And for off-campus work, you will also need a social insurance number. If you meet the criteria to work off campus under your study permit, you can work up to 24 hours per week off campus, unless it is a regularly scheduled break. During regularly scheduled breaks, you can work on a full-time basis, providing you meet the eligibility criteria. I've included on this slide what can constitute a regularly scheduled break for SFU graduate students, and also a QR code to our website where you can read more about the criteria you would need to meet in order to work full-time during a regularly scheduled break. Next slide, please. And now we're moving to co-op work. If your SFU program has a mandatory co-op, internship, or practicum, or if you are accepted into the SFU co-op program, for example, you would need to apply for a co-op work permit to do your required SFU work terms. This is not a type of work that you're really able to do under your study permit. To apply for a co-op work permit, you could request it when you apply for your initial SFU study permit if your SFU letter of acceptance or offer letter confirms that there is a work or internship requirement in your program. Otherwise, you can also apply for a co-op work permit from inside Canada once you have your study permit. So you have a couple options there. Whether you apply for a co-op work permit in Canada or outside Canada, you will require documentation from SFU confirming that there is a mandatory co-op internship or practicum in your program of study. And this document is called a co-op letter. And as a reminder, your co-op work permit can only be used for work that is an essential part of your program of study at SFU, and in terms which you are enrolled in an SFU co-op or internship term. So you would not be able to use that co-op work permit to work on an on-campus job or off-campus job, for example. It can only be used for the work that is built into your curriculum and it's part of your studies. I hope that helps to answer the question about whether you can work in Canada.
Thank you, Karen. So building on that, what about if I finish my studies? Can I stay in Canada and work after I have finished at SFU?
This is a very popular and common question among students. And the good news is that full-time international students may be eligible to apply for a post-graduation work permit or PGWP upon completing their program of study in Canada. The PGWP is an open work permit of up to 3 years in duration, and you don't need a job offer to apply and you don't need work experience to apply, but you do need to complete your degree. Under the PGWP program, students are required to meet a set of eligibility criteria, some of which I have highlighted on this slide. In addition to completing an eligible program of study, PGWP applicants must have maintained full-time student status during each academic term of their studies. And for SFU graduate students, full-time study is required in the spring term, the summer term, and the fall term in order to maintain PGWP eligibility, as these are all considered formal academic terms for immigration purposes for our graduate student population. Possible exceptions to the full-time requirement under the PGWP program may be made by IRCC, for example, in a student's final term of study or during a period of authorized leave from study. If receiving a post-graduation work permit after your studies is a priority for you, it is important that you do maintain full-time enrollment in these terms, as we do unfortunately see work permit refusals in cases where students did not meet the full-time requirement. We also understand that there may be many reasons why a student may need to temporarily take leave from their studies or take a reduced course load. And if you find yourself in a situation like that where you do need to drop down to part-time study or take a leave of absence, we just recommend that you book an appointment with one of us, with an international student advisor immigration specialist, to discuss potential immigration related impacts of that decision. We just want to make sure that you have all the information that you need to make an informed decision, and we are here to support you through that. Moving quickly to the right-hand column of my slide, I also just wanted to briefly highlight the more recently announced requirement for PGWP applicants to demonstrate their language proficiency in English or French in their application for a work permit. This is applicable to PGWP applicants who apply on or after November 1st, 2024. Also, as of November 1st, 2024, there is a field of study requirement for PGWP applicants from certain non-degree programs. But the field of study requirement is not applicable to SFU graduates from master's or doctoral degree programs. The QR codes to the right of this slide include the official IRCC information regarding the complete PGWP eligibility, as well as our website outlining the recent changes to the program itself. Because the post-graduation work permit eligibility criteria can change without notice, it is really important to monitor official websites like the IRCC website for the most reliable and current information. And that's true for all immigration updates, not just post-graduation work permit. We also work really hard to share immigration related updates as they happen with our students through the ISS newsletter that Doreen mentioned a little earlier, and regular updates to our website and resources. Thank you.
So for those students who haven't actually come to Canada yet, this is a good question. We're getting excited. We know that we're coming. We've packed our bags, but what about the documents? What do I need to carry, Karen, when I travel to Canada? Can we just review that?
Sure thing. When traveling, you'll see here that there's quite a few things we recommend that you have with you. Firstly, make sure that you are carrying your passport or your travel document and your study permit or study permit approval letter, and your TRV, your visa, or your ETA if you have one as needed. We also recommend that you carry with you an SFU letter of acceptance, your offer letter, and an SFU confirmation of enrollment letter, which is an official letter that you can download through your GoSFU account. And you can just download it really quickly, print it, and carry that with you as well. It will show that not only have you been accepted to SFU, but you've taken the initiative to enroll in your classes as well. You should also carry proof of available funds to support you and any accompanying family members when you come to Canada. And in addition, if you require an immigration medical exam, please be sure to have this with you too when you're traveling. I always recommend that you pack these documents in your carry-on luggage so that you will have easy access to them when you arrive in Canada. You can review the documents you should carry when traveling to Canada as an international student on the IRCC website here, and you can also review our frequently asked questions page dedicated to this topic by scanning the QR code on this slide. If your study permit application was approved outside of Canada, your permit will be issued to you at the port of entry after an examination with the Canada Border Services Agency. At this time, I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but it is really important that when you get that permit and before you leave the port of entry, make sure that you double check your permit for accuracy. So make sure that your name, your date of birth are all appearing correctly, your country of citizenship, and that you have those conditions for working on or off campus printed on your permit as well. And I think we're on to the last question now, Zoe.
We sure are, Karen. Thank you so much for all this valuable information. But question 9 could be a real thing. What are my options in case my study permit is not approved on time?
Yeah, and in reviewing the advanced questions submitted by you all, I noticed that this was a very common question. And I can really appreciate how uncertain things can feel right now, given IRCC's fluctuating processing times and the constantly changing rules. So hopefully this information will help you know what to do in the event that your study permit is not ready in time for September. From the Canadian immigration perspective, unless you meet a study permit exemption category, you must have a valid SFU study permit to begin your in Canada study program. If your study permit is still under processing and you do not expect a decision in time to start your program in September 2025, these are some options that you might consider. So the first one is admission deferral. That would be, requesting to defer your admission to the next available intake. Our office is not directly involved with admission deferral at the university, so we recommend that graduate students consult with their SFU academic department directly to discuss options for admission deferral if that's something that you would like to explore. You may also wish to check with your academic program to discuss the feasibility of you starting your program a little bit late, or maybe starting your program remotely from outside of Canada, because from the immigration perspective, while it may be possible for you to start your program remotely from outside of Canada without having a study permit, it's also important to remember that for any in Canada portions of your study, you would require a study permit. So yeah, if you were given the authorization to begin the program remotely from outside of Canada, you could do that without a study permit. But that would have to be at the approval of your department, and it's not something that all departments can accommodate. If you were to get approval to start your program late or begin your studies from outside of Canada, there are some important points that we recommend you consider. So firstly, unfortunately, a study permit approval is not guaranteed, right? That's going to be at the decision of IRCC. So if you start your program without a study permit approval, please be mindful of important deadlines for the fall 2025 term, such as adding and dropping classes deadline, tuition fees and refund deadline, because you don't want to find yourself in a situation where, you are facing academic and or financial penalties because you can't continue on with your studies due to not receiving a study permit approval. It's also important to remember that studies outside Canada after August 31st, 2024 will not be counted towards the length of your post-graduation work permit. That's often a big one for students. And just logistically, like remote learning may not be a viable option for everyone, right? And most courses in fall 2025 will be offered in person. So it's important to assess your own academic considerations, such as, limited availability for classes, time zone differences, and your own adaptability to a remote learning environment when you're trying to decide what's best for you and for your academic success at SFU. So I hope that helps to at least give a starting point for that question. And as always, if you have any questions whatsoever, you are more than welcome to reach out to us, and we'll always try and do our best to help and support you. So I think this now concludes the immigration portion of our session. And I just want to say a big thank you to everyone for your attention during all of that. I will hand the virtual mic back to Zoreen, and I'll see you all again during the Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Karen, for walking us through all 9 of those pretty popular common questions around immigration. Yes, we're going to switch gears, and I see Ishani, you've joined this next little section, and we're ready to hop into 8 more questions. Does that sound good for you?
Sounds great. So I'm very happy to be giving an overview of medical insurance requirements for international students. So we can get started with the first question. If Georgia, you want to move to the next slide? Yes.
Super. Yeah. So question one for you, Ishani. How does medical insurance work?
Yes, so as international students, you must have adequate medical insurance for the entire duration of your studies. And if you do have any family members also accompanying you, they also need to make sure that they have proper insurance coverage for their stay in Canada. So medical services can be extremely costly if you don't have proper insurance. For example, the BCMSP website indicates that hospital costs alone can exceed $1,000 a day if you don't have proper insurance. As such, it's in your best interest, as well as it's your responsibility to make sure that you have proper coverage at all times. So there are two types of insurance, primary and secondary, and together they make up your comprehensive insurance at SFU and in Canada. So next slide.
So knowing that we need the comprehensive insurance, Ishani, what is the difference between primary and secondary?
Yes. So primary medical insurance covers medically necessary services, such as doctor's visits, hospital services, and diagnostic medical tests, such as x-rays or lab tests, if you ever need to have one. So primary medical insurance is a legal requirement for all residents of BC, including international students. And secondary medical insurance covers services that are not covered by primary medical insurance. So those would be services such as dental services, vision care, extended health benefits such as prescription drugs. So the two plans or the two services are kind of complementary to each other. Next slide, please.
So the next two questions are going to address some details about primary medical insurance and then two more questions specifically about secondary insurance. So for the primary, next slide, please. What is the main primary medical insurance plan?
Yeah, so BC Medical Services Plan, or BCMSP as we commonly refer to it, is a provincial medical insurance plan and will be your main primary medical insurance plan as well. So once again, it is a legal requirement for everyone who lives in BC for longer than 6 months to enroll in this plan. So new students who arrive in BC should apply for BC MSP right away. So that should be one of the first settlement tasks that you should tick off your list. So there's roughly a 3-month waiting period before MSP coverage will begin. So to cover this waiting period, SFU provides a temporary primary medical insurance plan called GuardMe, and we'll talk about GuardMe in just over a few slides. So going back to BC MSP, you can apply for BC MSP online once you arrive in BC. And to apply for BC MSP, you do need to have a study permit that's valid for 6 months or longer. And if you do have any dependents with you, you can add them to your MSP plan as well. If not, they can have their own independent MSP accounts with their own immigration documents too. So the cost of the BC MSP is $75 per month for study permit holders, and this fee is called the International Student Health Fee. So once your BC MSP is effective, you will start receiving a monthly invoice by mail, and you should be able to make the payments online. So this charge does not appear on your SFU account. You are responsible for maintaining your MSP account by yourself. That's a common misconception. Sometimes students confuse that any of the insurance charges you see on your SFU account are your BC MSP fees, but it's not the case. And because this is a graduate info session, I also want to let you know of the resource that if any of you end up becoming future TAs or TMs, you might be eligible to have this International Student Health Fee covered by SFU as one of your employee benefits. So this is not administered by our office, but I want to let you all know. So if this is something that would apply to you, you can connect with SFU HR for more information about how to get that benefit. Next slide, please. And then once you receive your MSP coverage as well, please make sure that you keep your MSP account updated. So as an international student, your MSP coverage will be valid only for the length of the study permit that you apply for MSP with. So each time you renew your study permit, or if you end up getting a post-graduation work permit in the future, please make sure you update your MSP account with your new immigration documents as well. And then if you're in between study permits right now, if you apply for a new study permit before your old study permit expired, You can also request for temporary MSP coverage while you're waiting for your new study permit to be issued. And then once you receive your new study permit, you can update the MSP coverage to match the validity of your new immigration document. And then maintaining your MSP also entails that you let them know if you move so that they'll have your most recent address to send any important correspondence. And then again, making sure that you're staying on top of your monthly payments as well. And you can do all of this by visiting the MSP website online. Next slide, please.
So Ishani, you were talking about this waiting period. So how do I get coverage while I'm going through that exact MSP waiting period?
Yes, so SFU provides a temporary primary medical insurance plan called GuardMe at SFU for new international students. So the goal of this GuardMe plan is to protect you from any emergencies while you're waiting for your BCMSP to be effective. So you will be enrolled in the GuardMe plan only in your first term. It is temporary. So for students starting in the fall term, it will be valid through September 1st until December 31st of this year, and you will not be enrolled in any subsequent terms. So the cost of this plan is $281. It will be part of your fall term fees. And at the beginning of the term, you will receive a welcome email from GuardMe directly with a link to access your GuardMe portal online. So once you log in, you'll be able to view your healthcare access card, which is your proof of GuardMe insurance. You'll be able to add any dependents. You'll be able to view your policy details. And once the term begins, you'll also be able to submit any claims through that portal. So if you have any dependents, they can be added to your plan once you receive the policy details at an additional cost. And as I mentioned earlier, your coverage will begin on September 1st, but it's possible that some of you may arrive earlier to get yourself settled. And in that case, you can purchase early arrivals insurance on the GuardMe website yourself, or you can organize travel insurance or private medical insurance for yourself to cover any gaps. Next slide, please. And it's also possible that some of you may already have valid BCMSP coverage if you've been living here for a while. In that case, you can opt out of your GuardMe plan by September 30th and get a full refund of that $281. So you just need to visit the GuardMe website online, upload proof of your MSP coverage, and then as long as you do it before September 30th, you should be able to get that full refund back. And then if you're a brand new BC resident, you may be eligible for a partial refund if you receive valid BC MSP before November 30th and also opt out before that deadline. So this is another incentive to apply for BC MSP as soon as you arrive. And in either case, you should opt out of your, to be eligible for a refund, you should have not used your GuardMe plan. Next slide, please.
So given all that great information, Ishani, I'm just wondering for this question, maybe you could summarize some key takeaways for us regarding primary insurance. What do we need to know or do?
Yes, absolutely. So if I could whittle down all of that information into 3 major points, it is that your GuardMe plan is temporary. I would like to reiterate that because sometimes students think that they will have GuardMe insurance throughout their time at SFU, but that is not the case. It is only for your first term. And you will need to make sure that BC MSP, which is a legal requirement, would be effective by the time your GuardMe plan expires after your first term for continuous primary medical care, primary medical insurance. And also make sure that you stay on top of your MSP account, which means that there won't be any lapses in coverage. So each time you renew your study permit, make sure you update your MSP account as well, and then also keep up with your monthly payments. And with that, we can now move on to secondary medical insurance.
Great. So Ishani, can you walk us through the next 3 questions that are specific to the secondary side, beginning with question 6. What is my secondary insurance plan?
Yes, so as a reminder, secondary insurance covers services that BC MSP does not. So those would be services such as dental, vision, travel, and extended benefits like prescription drugs, massage therapy, physiotherapy, things along the lines. So graduate students receive secondary insurance through the Graduate Student Society or the GSS Health and Dental Plan. So the plan provider is Student Care, so sometimes we refer to this plan as the Student Care Plan as well. So once again, another reminder to enroll in BC MSP, because to access some services of your secondary insurance plan, you need to have valid BC MSP as well. And sometimes students also think that they can use a secondary insurance plan for doctor's visits or hospital services, which is not the case. So these plans are complementary, they go hand in hand. So please make sure that you enroll in BC MSP as well. Next question, please.
So how do I get this insurance coverage?
So once you complete course enrollment, you will be automatically enrolled in this secondary insurance plan. And it is an annual plan, which means the plan will be valid from September 1st of this year until August 31st of next year. So the cost of the plan will be included in your fall term fees as well. So there are two tiers to this plan, the enhanced plan as well as the basic plan. And you will be automatically enrolled in the enhanced plan once you complete course enrollment. And then each fall semester, this plan will automatically renew as long as you are enrolled in courses. And there's an important timeline for you to keep in mind for this plan. It's called the change of coverage period, which will be from August 26th to September 16th of this year. So if you want to add any dependents, or you want to opt out because you have an equivalent plan, or if you want to downgrade from the enhanced plan to the basic plan, you must do so during this change of coverage period. And you can visit their website to access this portal. Next slide, please.
So if I want to take a look, where can I find more information about my secondary insurance plan?
Yes, so the Student Care website is a great resource because it has very comprehensive information about your coverage details. And you can also add any dependents or opt out of the plan on their website and also learn about any discounts you can get. And Student Care also has an office at the Burnaby campus if you would like to stop by and get any assistance in person. And they also have a virtual assistance center on their webpage as well, where you'll be able to chat with an agent and get assistance right away. And then next slide, please. We also encourage you to register for this info session that we'll have in September. So we will have a Student Care representative also present information who will go into a lot more detail about this plan as well. So that would be a great resource for you to learn more about this topic as well. And with that, I'll now hand it over to you, Zareen, as well as Hannah.
Thank you so much, Ishani, for walking us through all 8 of those questions and answers around medical insurance. So switching gears to our partner at Graduate Studies, Hannah works as the student support specialist there, and her role is to help you navigate issues that may impact your ability to progress through your academic journey. Hannah has worked in graduate studies for 5 years in multiple roles, so she can be a really great resource for any of your questions around admissions, records, or policies. So, Hannah, over to you.
Hello, my name's Hannah, and thank you for the wonderful introduction and the session today. I'm very interested in everything that we've been talking about. It's really nice to hear. I support a lot of international students, so it's nice to sort of know from all of your perspectives and proactively address some of these issues. So this has been a really great session. Next slide, please. So I'm going to be talking to you about grad studies, what we do, our role in the university, our role in your studies and your student journey, and just the different ways that we can support you. So as you'll see, we have a lot of different units in graduate studies who will be a part of your student journey from admissions, which we probably already have been a part of, all the way through until graduation. So we have an admissions team, a records and enrollment team to help you throughout your time here. We have an amazing awards team who can help give you information about awards applications, the different awards you may be eligible for, and a lot of really great resources there. We also have professional development and student experience team that can help you with any opportunities, outside from your normal activities and study. Student support, which is myself and our Associate Dean Student Affairs. So if you're having any issues, no matter how big or small they are, with issues progressing through your studies, you can always reach out to us. We hope to never see you, of course, and we hope that your journey is as seamless as possible, but you are always welcome, even if it's just a small question about policy or a question of where to go. Please don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to help you. And then graduation, we hate to see you leave, but we're happy that everyone graduates. So, of course, supporting that process as well. Um, and one important thing to note about grad studies is the structure of grad studies compared to your program. A lot of people think that grad studies in the program, like where they fit. So grad studies oversees the policies, the systems, and sort of the overall view of graduate activities at SFU, whereas your specific program is about the program specific information and resources needed for your area of study. An example of this is like enrollment. You know, you would come to grad studies about your enrollment dates, the deadlines, the policies, the system, getting enrolled into courses. And then you would go to your program to figure out what specific classes should you be taking? What are the requirements for your degree? So they would advise on the specific content of what you should enroll in, and we advise on how to enroll and the processes to get there. So we work hand in hand. So really your program is that resource for you specifically for your area of studies, whereas grad studies is just your university resource of where to find things, the policies and the systems and everything. So as you can see, we have a great team with different areas. So if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to stop by the office. So next slide, please. So again, if you have any questions about any of those, here's how you can find us in person on Burnaby campus. We are actually right next door to ISS. So, you know, come into ISS, then stop by us and say hi. We'd love to speak with you and chat with you. You can also visit us online on our website, SFU Grad Studies. Usually a nice Google search will get you there as well. And last, the most common way to reach us is through email or our ticket system. If you have any questions about, you know, any of those areas that discussed previously, please use the tickets. It's probably the fastest way to contact us. And please include your student number. That's the fastest way that we can make sure that we get to your concerns as fast as possible. And yeah, no matter how big or small your question is, please don't hesitate to reach out. It's best to come to the source for it all, so that way we can help you and get you on your way to your studies. Next slide, please. I also have the privilege of speaking on behalf of the library today. So I don't work for the library, but I am their #1 advocate at this point because I love the resources that they have. SFU has 3 libraries, one on each campus. So very accessible depending on where your studies are primarily located. And we also have the Research Commons, which is a graduate space where you can get a lot of support for your studies. They have incredible hands-on sessions, consultations. They have this amazing thing called the Read Ahead service. You can submit your assignments. They'll read it ahead and give you some advice. So it has been so useful for me. I've used it as well. They have access to different softwares that you may use for your research and just amazing people that can help guide you and support your studies. So I will say one thing about SFU is we have so many incredible resources both for you in your studies and elsewhere. So please, I always suggest you reach out. And they have so many workshops as well. I kind of skipped that one point, but the workshops the library has is just amazing. And so keep an eye out. There's a lot of emails that go out for those, but I highly, highly, highly recommend doing that. And then great graduate only spaces as well. So it's nice to sort of be within your own communities of grad students and see whatever everyone else is doing. And it's a nice little area for support because research tends to be a big part of your degree, and it's nice to have a lot of other grad students around that can sort of support you there. So yeah, that's the library. I highly recommend checking them out. And I believe those are all my slides.